Module 5, CAD 116 Basic AutoCAD. Under the Content section, we have our outline of topics. And if we take a look at our outline of topics, today we'll be covering view commands, layer and object properties, Chapter 10 and 11 from AutoCAD 2022 Instructor. If we go ahead and take a look at the textbook, Chapter 10 goes through viewing commands, and the learning objectives are to understand the relationship between drawing objects and the display of those objects, be able to use the zoom options, pan options, save and restore views, work with view res, nav wheels, UCS icon, and then to be able to work with viewports. The concepts for AutoCAD is basically that you draw everything full size in actual units. And so as we go through and we work with the CAD system, typically we'll draw things full size in model space. And so as we go through and we take a look at how the textbook is laying this out, what they did is they went through these different view commands that are available within the navigation panel. And so as we go through, I'll highlight some of those things. Here's our AutoCAD. And then if I go into, they have a floor plan sample file. And I've put that in the D2L folder. And so if you go to outline of topics, and then you go into module 5, at the end of the module 5, I've added this floor plan sample. And what you can do is you can download that file and open it, and then you'll have this file right here. And essentially what it is it's a floor plan drawing with a number of different layers that we can go through and use for Chapter 10 and 11 to explain some of these concepts. As you can see, I'm changing the zoom magnification level and panning. I have the menu bar enabled. And then as we go through and we take a look at the textbook itself, they have show panels, and they want to put on the, apparently it looks like the navigate panel. And so if we come over here to show these panels, we have these panels here. This would be the home panel, the insert, annotate, parametric, view. And if we right click and then we go to show panels, if it's not checked off, it's not on. And so we can check it off. And now we have the navigate panel. And essentially it's all these different zoom commands that we can go through and use. And so if we use zoom extents, it zooms to the extents of the drawing, meaning everything that's within the drawing. If we look at zoom window, we can go and create a window, and it will zoom up on that geometry. If we look at zoom previous, it will go back to the previous zoom magnification level. If we look at real time, and real time is really the way to work with AutoCAD and most of your CAD systems. Real time requires a mouse with a scroll wheel, and if you turn the wheel on the mouse, it will magnify it or demagnify it, and if you push the wheel on the mouse, it will pan. And it will magnify it to wherever the mouse cursor is. So if I want to magnify this area right here for office number 6045, I can just put the cursor location there, and I can zoom in and zoom out. If I come back here, zoom all. Oftentimes we'll use zoom all to find space geometry. So every once in a while we'll create an offset. And if we create an offset and it's way out, maybe 1,000 yards from the drawing itself, when we do a zoom all, it will show up as really a very small line. And so if I hit a line like this, and then I offset that, and we're just going to say 1,000, and we'll select that line. And I guess it's not really enough, so let's offset that. Just an unrealistic number, like that. And then we wanted to clean this drawing up. When we were looking for our space junk, we could go into a zoom all. And so I could say view, zoom, all. And then I can try to find where that geometry is. And I'm not doing really the greatest job with it because it's a very small line, but one way to kind of fix it would be to say erase, enter, and then you can say all, enter, and then hold the shift key and remove the geometry you want to keep. Now when we do a zoom all, we've eliminated our space chunk. And so that's a common problem where we'll have something out there and we can't find it, and we'll need to be able to locate where that is. And so if we come back here to our view panel, here's our zoom commands, zoom all, zoom dynamic. Don't really use this much. I don't use the scale very much. Center, object, in and out. A lot of these, as we start to look at them, you know, they have like these older versions of CAD that would allow us to kind of shrink and modify, and then when we right click we hit enter and it'll zoom to that location. So it's not really a modern command. And zoom scale, we could zoom it to a scale factor of 1. Zoom center, we'll center it, I believe, on that location. Enter the magnification center, let's see, 1. And that's not really a useful command either. Zoom in. And this is how it was when we first started with AutoCAD. You'd zoom in, and you pan, and then you could zoom out back when we had these DOS-based computers. Alrighty, so let's go back to the chapter. And so those are these different zoom commands in the navigate panel. If we were to look at orbiting and things like that, we would be looking at three-dimensional objects, and we'll cover that as we find a spot to do that in. And so I've covered most of these, zooming and panning with the wheel and the mouse. So as you turn the wheel on the mouse, you can zoom in and zoom out. Remember, where the cursor is located is where it will zoom in. Panning is just pushing the wheel on the mouse. And so if we zoom in, it follows the cursor, zoom out, and then panning. And then here's all these zoom commands written out in excruciating detail. And so there's a lot of them as you go through. When you get down to working with zoom, I will use zoom window occasionally, but most of the time we'll use real-time zooming, and we'll just turn the wheel on the mouse and push the wheel on the mouse. Ever since they've had that command active, it seems to be the standard within our CAD drawing viewing commands. Panning keeps the magnification or the display level at whatever it is set at, and so as you pan in a drawing, you'll be able to go through and pan that drawing and keep it at the same magnification level. And that can be sort of important if we go back to our CAD drawing and we go to our layout, and then I'm in paper space, which means this is a viewport here, and then if I double click within the viewport, I don't have a scale set for it. And so typically what we want to do is we want to dial in the scale in paper space so that we can print it and measure it with a ruler. And so if we start off with 1/8 of an inch equals a foot, we can see if it's going to be able to fit within that display. Let's go down and let's continue to bring that down. It's an A-size piece of paper, so it doesn't really have much to work with, but it looks like 1/32 almost fits. And what you can do, if it almost fits, is you can double click outside of the viewport, and then you can resize the viewport to within the printable area. And the printable area is these dotted lines that you see in paper space. And so that's a workable viewport and a workable viewport scale. And so I'll double click inside of the viewport, and then best practice is to lock that viewport so that if you are going to work in what they call floating model space, that you don't go and change the zoom magnification level and have to reset the viewport scale. They have a view manager which allows you to save views. And so if you're maybe a facilities manager and you wanted to use this view manager, what you can do is you can save views to certain locations within the drawing. And so if I come back here and then I go, we're going to do this in model space. And let's say that we want to go and make views by the room numbers. I could say view, and then what I can do is to say new, and then I can set that as 6050 for the room number. And I can say OK. And then if I want to, I can continue to add rooms. And so if I want to have another room where I'm going to have 6042, I can say new 6042. And it would probably behoove me to make that a little bigger so it's just that one. So I can say view, new 6042. Okay. And then what I can do is I can set these different views active. And I thought I set that other view active, but I don't really see it. And so I might not have applied it. But if I'm out here and I want to restore that view, I can say view. And then I can go and select my view and I can say set current. And I can say OK. And we'll go to that location within the drawing. So it's a nice way to be able to navigate if you're a facilities person, where you can save these views and then be able to update information within those room numbers. And you can delete. ViewRes is a good command. ViewRes changes the amount of line geometry that is generated when you create circular shapes. And so if you're looking at your computer and the circles look kind of polygonal shaped like that, what you can do is you can type in ViewRes, and then what you can do is you can go and you can set it to 20,000, and it'll be the highest level ViewRes, and it'll be nice and smooth as far as the way that the circles are created from the line geometry. UCS icon is this X and Y icon, and you can turn it on and you can turn it off. You can work within these different options here as we go through and we work with the user coordinate system. Sometimes they get in the way, and so here's my UCS icon right here, UCS-ICON. I almost had it. There we go. And so if I want to turn off the UCS icon, and it's located right down here, I can say off, and it disappears. Repeat UCS icon, turn it on. And the UCS icon is used heavily when we work with 3D drawing. We will manipulate the X and Y location to different planes as we go through and we create different 3D geometry and shapes. And then you have the ability within the options for the UCS icon style displayed in the toolbar. I don't think there's any need to really go too far into that. ViewGo seems to be a new command where it will go to that view. And so I'm not sure if I can, so if I say ViewGo, and then if I say 1, it goes back to the first view, 6040. And then if I say ViewGo 6042, it goes to that room. QB drawing, I'm going to have to come back to at a different time. It's somewhat of an advanced command. Viewports are a good way to work within your CAD drawings, and they function differently in model space versus paper space. So in model space, when you use the viewports command, what you can do is you can divide your screen up among these different views. And so if I come back here to my CAD drawing, and I type in viewports, you have a number of different options, and you have a 2D setup and you have a 3D setup. And since this drawing is just a 2D drawing, you could make 4 equal, and then what you can do is you can set which view would be set within each view. So I can say make 4 equal and say OK. It will divide that, and then if I wanted to bounce back between different areas of the drawing, I can have this one here, and I can have this one here. And so viewports will allow you to go through and display different viewports in model space that you can go through and you can set. If we go viewports, we can go back and set them back up at single, and we can OK that, and we can set that up. It does a really nice job if I have something three-dimensional and I wanted to be able to toggle between them, but at this time I don't have a 3D drawing open, so I'm just going to continue with the lecture as it is. And so as you can see, you can set up these different views. And then we are in our chapter exercises. And so this is chapter 10. The floor plan sample drawing is located in the D2L section, and you're welcome to take a look and work with these different view commands. And that's basically how to work with these different view commands. Alrighty, that ends this video lecture.